Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm your host, Lisa Oligas. In this edition, we focus on an Arbor and Earth Day event. May the forest be with you. It's a collaborative effort of the City of Joplin, Wildcat Glades, Missouri Department of Conservation, the Church Glades chapter of the Missouri Master Naturalist, and Liberty. Members of the company's Arbor Day committee join us to explain why they're involved in the event. We welcome first Megan Spangler. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So why does Liberty get involved in something like this?
Well, we like to get involved in the community, first off. Anytime we can be involved in the community is a good time and a good thing that we enjoy doing and giving back. And then also because a huge thing for us is sustainability. And so this is a great event for that. It also is good for our vegetation department because it shows off what they can do and it shows off what they can offer to the community and what they do offer the community, but they're kind of always behind the scenes. So they are a huge part in planning of this. They're probably they actually are the planners of it, I guess. And so that's why we do it. And it's another great way too. We have an annual tree giveaway. And so we use the event to give those trees away at that time. That's where people can come pick them up.
So may the forest be with you. Is there a theme there?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, Star Wars, obviously. So it just sounded really cool. This is the third year of the Star Wars theme.
Lucky for you, there's a lot of sequels, prequels.
Mm-hmm.
So we can carry this theme on for a while.
Yeah, this one is A New Earth. I want to make sure, yep. So it's A New Earth, and we usually have a Star Wars troop show up, which is really cool because their costumes are really in-depth and just excellent, so it makes it really fun.
That's appealing to the kids, for sure.
Oh, yeah, and the adults.
So let's talk about this event. It's taking place April 22nd, right? When is it?
Yes,
Where is
it is Saturday, April 22nd. It starts at 10 a.m. It runs to 2 p.m., and it is at Wildcat Park, which is in Wildcat Glades in Joplin, Missouri.
So let's talk about all the things that are going to be happening.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the tree giveaway.
Oh, no. That's just a piece of it. So there's going to be a ton of booths, a ton of little stations. There's going to be live food. There's going to be live music. I believe it's Chester and the Tumbleweeds will be there. The Star Wars troop. There'll be a scavenger hunt for the kids, so they go to all their little booths. And then at the end, if they've gotten all their pieces, they're put into a drawing. There will be... Wright's Tree Service does a great thing. They have this climbing structure, and the kids love that. So it's a very family-friendly event. It's just great for everyone and great to promote the park and promote what Joplin has to offer and then just promote getting outside.
Yeah, kids love to climb trees, but this way at least it's safe.
Yeah.
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 So let's talk about that you are giving away trees.
Yes.
So what are the trees that are going to be given away, or how many, everybody gets one? How does that work?
Yeah, so we offered it online to all of our Liberty customers. Every customer is able to get one tree per household. Mm-hmm. So we actually partner with the Arbor Day Foundation for it. It's very cool. You go online and it shows you your house, and you plot out your house, and then you plot out what tree you'd like out of the offerings and put where you want to place it. And it tells you how much energy savings you will get from that placement. It even calculates it into dollars, I believe, which is really cool because that's another point for us is that the right tree in the right place can create energy savings. So that's our connection to it, and we partner with the Arbor Day Foundation to do that. And then that day we give them away. So people can get a tree up until supplies run out, or I believe there may be a deadline. I'll need to check on that.
They can go online. How do they find that site?
Yeah, they can go to our social media page. I believe it's Liberty Utility Central, and we'll give you the information, so hopefully we can share it out. But yeah, they go on there and they reserve it that way.
There's a lot of demonstrations and things like that. What can people learn while they're here?
Oh, yeah. So there'll be the master gardeners there. There will be Citizens for Climate. We'll have Small Hands Can Save the Earth, which is really cool. Birds in Watercolor, Wildcat info and book sales, the Wildcat Scavenger, Wildcat Animal Sounds, the Audubon Center, and the Joplin History and Mineral Museum will be there.
So lots of activities for kids and adults if they want to.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so tell us about you guys sponsor an arboretum as well at Landreth Park. Mm-hmm. Why is that important to actually help plant trees and keep trees in our parks? Why is Liberty part of that?
Well, it's good for the earth. So it's good for the earth. It's good for energy. So trees, they say right tree, right place. And so there's a way to safely do it, but it just conserves energy. And, you know, a lot of times you think about that in numbers and in dollars, but it's just good in general for the earth and sustaining the earth that we have. So that's ties us into this event. But yeah, that's part of why we
You're partnering with a
plant
number
trees.
of organizations to make this happen.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a number of organizations. Now, for the tree giveaway, it's the Arbor Day Foundation. And for this event, we went through them at the beginning, but it's a number of organizations. So it's Wildcat Glades, of course, Joplin Parks and Recreation, Liberty, the church chapter of Master Naturalists, and the Missouri Department of Conservation.
So lots of things to celebrate Earth Day and Arbor Day all at once.
All at once.
All right. Thanks, Megan Spangler, for telling us all about that. As we go to break, we're going to have details of the event pop up, and then we will take you to a tree planting to the yard for a planting demonstration. Tree planting doesn't start with a shovel. It starts with assessing the location, and that means spray paint. Because before digging to plant a tree, it's important to call 1-800-DIG-RIGHT to avoid hitting underground utilities, phone, or gas lines. Then you want to find the right place in the yard. Liberty Vegetation Director Jason Grossman takes us through Tree Planting 101.
So every tree is going to have a maximum height and a maximum width. So when you're considering a location to plant it, you want to take those factors into consideration.
So is this too close to this pole?
No, so this tree is going to be about 20 feet tall maximum, and it's going to be about 15 feet wide. So this one we can actually get fairly close to the utilities. We don't want it growing into the power line, so we've given ourselves a little bit of a buffer. It may look like it's close now, but by the time it gets full crown width, it's going to have plenty of space. This is a Japanese tree lilac. It's a smaller growing tree. It's going to have really pretty flowers in mid-June, and it's going to have a very strong fragrance to it. It's going to smell great.
Then it's time to dig a hole. Width and depth are very important.
We really want to go as wide as possible, and based on the size of that pot, I think we're pretty good. Most of the tags on the trees will recommend you go at least half the size of the pot wider than what it is. In this case, wider is always better, so what we're really doing there is loosening up the soil, and that'll allow the roots to establish better and reach out and anchor the tree down a lot better. So what we're kind of doing now is just loosening up some of that edge soil. When the roots hit this hard pan here, they're going to be deflected and want to circle. But if we can give them kind of a foothold and a place to dig in, they'll start establishing and anchor that tree down a lot better. So what we're going to do now is just test the hole and see if it's deep enough. This tree doesn't have too good of a root system on it, but I think it's going to be all right. It's not too root bound. It was recently repotted. If we had any circling roots at this time, we'd want to prune them off. What we're doing now is checking to see if the tree is level enough or low enough. We really want this part right here. This is the root flare where the trunk meets the roots. We want this to be slightly above ground, and we've got about 2 or 3 inches deeper that we need to go to get this thing set in good.
So more digging.
More digging. That should do it. Nope, I think it looks like we're pretty good right there. So with the root flare coming out, we don't want to set that too far below the grade. Setting it above grade is better than setting it below grade. So with this, we're just slightly above, and I think we're in pretty good shape right there. So now we're going to backfill the hole, and we're going to use a mixture of the soil. This will help kind of get it loosened up. With this potting soil, it's a lot more organics than what we have naturally. We're going to use this kind of as the base filler, but we're going to mix it in just to kind of get a composition. That way it's not too dependent on this soil, and then it just stays in that area and it doesn't want to actually reach out. So we'll add in some of the parent soil that we took out from the hole. We want to avoid trying to put rocks back in there, but if we get some in, it's okay. Yeah, and we want to avoid putting the grass in there because that's just going to create an organic matter pocket that's going to need to be filled in with more dirt. So we're shaking the clumps and backfilling. A little bit of grass isn't going to hurt, but we want to try and avoid getting the big clumps in there. So as we're backfilling, we want to kind of pat this down, settle it into the roots a little bit. We don't want to compact it too much. That's going to really inhibit the root growth. But if we can get it kind of firm down right now as we fill it in, it'll make this job a lot easier as we come and empty out the rest of this bucket. All right, and again, we don't want to come up over the root flare. We'll probably get a little bit over this, but then as we pat it down and firm it up, it should settle below. This, the root flare is where the tree is naturally grown and accepted the level of dirt or soil where it's at. And this is the natural height. If we plant it too low, we're going to get soil up against the bark, and then that's going to generate moisture and mold and fungus and decay a lot quicker. So this is the natural health barrier for the tree.
You might think putting more dirt around the roots will protect them, but that can be a mistake.
Planting too deep is a common mistake. A lot of people think just stick them in the ground and cover it up and they'll go. Mother Nature has figured out the best way to do this over time, and if you can grow it from seed, that's great, but a lot of times we're transplanting from container stock, and they do need a little bit more TLC to get them established. All right, you think you can just dump that on there? You really don't want a mound. What some people will do is build kind of a berm around the edge to help the water stay in. I don't think we're going to have an issue with that here, but you can kind of berm this up so that the water does stay in. Again, you want to avoid piling it up against the trunk because that's just going to promote the rot and decay. All right. So what we're going to do now is root stake it. You want to hand me that hammer, Doug?
What are we going to do now?
This is a root staking. So earlier we talked about the T-post and stuff. With root staking, what we're going to do is take a wooden dowel and we're going to drive it down through the root ball, and that's going to hold it in place. And over time, this wood will just rot out and the tree will naturally establish itself. And it's kind of a natural way of doing it without the ugly T-posts and tie downs that you would have in some places. So you want to kind of find a spot in the root ball where you can get a good staking, and then we're going to drive that down. We want to get into that parent material below where we dug the hole, and that'll really get it anchored in there. And when we're done, we can just break that off and cover that up.
Once planted, your tree needs a serious watering before mulching.
So what we really want to do here is just get the soil to settle down in around the roots. We may need to add a little bit more soil once this settles, but we're also going to mulch on top of this here in a few minutes. And we really want to get this soil saturated the first time in. That'll get, like I said, all the soil to kind of settle down around the roots, get good contact, and keep the roots moist. So mulching is another common cause for tree mortality. If you put too much mulch on and pile it up around the trunk, you can actually kill the tree for the same reason as piling the soil up around it, is that it is going to promote root and fungus decay. Yeah, I think 2 bags is going to be plenty. So you want to go about 3 to 6 inches in depth, and it really should be more like a donut. And by donut, I mean we're going to spread this out. We're going to keep it away from the trunk, and that way we've got some space here. Like I said, there won't be a constant source of moisture up against the trunk that's going to promote that or rot and decay. Mulch is important for newly establishing trees and established trees. This is going to help shade the ground and regulate the soil temperature. It's also going to shade it and help keep a lot of that moisture in and help reduce some of the need for watering. So a lot of common mistakes on this are people want to volcano mulch it, and it will look like a volcano with the mulch piled all the way up around the stem. That's going to do more harm than good. So
Last steps are removing tags and any constricting factors that might inhibit growth. Wait to prune your tree until year 2, water it, and watch it grow.
Welcome back to Newsmakers. Well, we got the basics. Now it's time to learn more about trees, planting, and what you can learn at the big Arbor Earth Day event. May the forest be with you. Joining the conversation is Liberty vegetation expert Jason Grossman. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So there's a lot to learn about planting trees, and your job is vegetation. A lot of people probably think Liberty, we're talking utility poles and lines and electricity. Why is vegetation involved? Tell us about your job.
Well, part of what we do is we make sure the power and lights stay on. A lot of times trees will grow into the wires and cause a conflict that can cause an outage. So we annually patrol our lines to make sure that we don't have those outages, and we'll trim the trees back if we need to. At that time, we also use a lot of other tools in our bag to kind of maintain those trees and provide safe and reliable electricity.
So you also, though, are involved in planting. You understand planting. I mean, are there places where people can plant a tree and not have to worry about the power lines? Is that something where if they called you, you would give advice?
Yes, we have lots of options for that. Our Arboretum at Joplin, in Joplin at Landreth Park is a great example of a way to, or places you can plant trees in relation to the power lines. That's available online on our website as well. And yes, people can call in. We're able to send them brochures and pamphlets on it. And the reason we like promoting right tree, right place is because if we can do that, we can reduce those outages from trees into the power lines. Nationwide, trees are a leading cause of outages. We're lucky on our system that we do a pretty good job. Pat myself on the back a little bit, but we don't have as many tree outages as what a lot of the utilities do because we do a good job managing them, and we promote events like this where we can get out the right message of right tree, right place.
Sure. I mean, we can't help it. Mother Nature will blow a tree down, but if it's not planted near a power line, that becomes not so much of an issue, correct?
Yes, unfortunately, I don't think we can prevent all tree outages, but a lot of times when we're talking about yard situations and people's houses, we can help educate them on the right tree in the right place and get that tree planted in a safe proximity so that it doesn't grow into the power lines.
Megan mentioned it. I mean, trees can make a difference in energy consumption. And so where do we want to plant it in our yard to help that? I mean, is there a right side, north side, east side of the house that's best?
Yes, so there's two main types of trees. I'm going to keep it fairly simple, but there's deciduous and evergreens. Evergreens are your pine trees, cedars, stuff like that that stay green year round. If you plant those on the north side, north and east, you can shelter from those cold winds in the wintertime, and that'll give you a windbreak. Deciduous trees that lose their leaves, that's mostly what we have around here. If they're planted on the east and west side, they can shade your house in the morning and evening times. And a lot of studies have shown that they can reduce heating costs up to 60%.
Wow. Wow.
heating
So
and cooling costs.
Those will be planted on the west and the south, or the west and east?
West east.
West,
East and
east.
west, or east and west. South will help you out a little bit too.
Okay. So let's talk about the trees you're giving away. What are the kinds of trees, and is one better than the other for creating shade, or is that why you picked there are several options, correct?
Yes, it really depends on what you're trying to do at your house. If you're wanting a large shade tree, we do have some of those. We've got bald cypress, a shortleaf pine, yellowwood, and a shumared oak that are kind of your larger shade trees. Those are great for planting on that east and west side to give you some relief from the sun. But if not everybody has a big yard. Some people have the smaller yards. We've also got some smaller trees, a dogwood, an eastern redbud, and the yellowwood kind of fits into that medium range tree, but it's good for shade and a little bit of ornamentality as well.
We talked about how to plant. What are some things you need to do before you plant? I mean, we always don't want to just start digging in a yard, right?
Right. First thing to do is call 811 Dig Right. Get your underground locates on. Make sure you don't hit anything. Once they come out and do that, I think it's 3 days, you're good to go. We have to dig a hole to get the tree in the ground. The holes need to be a little bit wider than what the tree is actually coming in. Most of them are coming in container stocks. The ones we're giving away are about 3 gallons, so it's about a 15-inch hole, and you want to go a little bit wider than the pot. You don't want to put the tree too deep. There's a root flare that comes off at the base of the tree that wants to be level with the ground, and then most of the container stock you're going to need to kind of tease the roots out a little bit as well, because they're used to growing around, and that can actually be detrimental to the tree in the long term.
Might strangle itself.
Exactly.
Wow. So what trees do grow best in Joplin? The ones we're giving out, and then are there others that are actually really good for the Joplin environment?
Yes.
Climate, they
yes.
grow well?
Trees have ranges of where they grow as well. The ones we're giving away are native to this area, and they're well suited. Most people suggest going with natives. They're more adapted to the local climate. There's a lot of great varieties out there. The ones we have specifically are trees that we've picked out that don't have a lot of issues. They're usually pretty tough and pretty hardy.
Yeah. You know, I often see people have ropes attached to their tree. Why do they do that? Why is that important?
That's to stabilize the tree so that it doesn't blow over during heavy winds. There's lots of different ways of doing that. It's called staking. And they'll put T-posts or something in, and usually a wire with a rubber hose or something around it to kind of pad it so the wire doesn't cut into it. There's a lot of different methods there. Usually you want some kind of protection there around that trunk of the tree so that it doesn't cut into it. But the staking stabilizes the tree so it doesn't blow over in the wind.
So besides calling Dig Right and things like that, what other things do we do to prepare the ground for our tree? And then after it's planted, I mean, are there fertilizers we're supposed to use?
You want to get that tree in the ground. You want to kind of pat the dirt around. You don't want to compact it too much, but you want to water it in, and the watering will help that soil settle around the roots and reduce the air pockets. And then that should help get it into the ground and stabilize it a little bit better.
What are keys to keeping a tree alive? I am somebody who does not have a great green thumb. I have bushes right now that are very sad because they started to bloom a little, or, and then we had a freeze and they didn't quite make it. So trees can be fragile the first year or two. Are there things we need to be aware of?
A lot of trees die in the first 7 years that they're planted.
Wow.
Some of that is from overwatering, so you can overwater it.
Okay.
I think MDC recommends about ½ an inch per week. A lot of people will take a bucket out there, a 5-gallon bucket. Usually you want a brick or a rock or something in there so that it doesn't blow away when it gets empty. But if you drill a little 1/8 inch hole in the bottom of that, you can fill that bucket up and it'll slowly drip water through down to the tree over time, and then you just move that bucket around once it's empty around the base of the tree. That should be sufficient to keep it alive. If we get in a really dry spell in the summertime, you may need a little bit of supplemental watering for it.
Okay. So any other tips? I mean, I've always heard the word pruning, but when do they need it? How do you know it might need it?
Yes, most younger trees are going to need a little bit of structural pruning to get them off on the right path, and just about the majority of trees you're going to plant around here typically do better with a single stem. A lot of them, and silver maples are really prone to this. They'll come off with a codominant stem, which means they have 2 leads that are going to grow kind of in competition together. And at an early age, if you can literally nip that in the bud, you can stick with that single stem tree and have a lot better branching structure off of that.
So tell me about what you all will be doing at the event, and as you're there, what are some of the messages you're going to give to folks, some of the demonstrations?
Yep, so we have partnered with the Arbor Day Foundation for people to come in and sign up through the Energy Efficiency Tree Program, and they can draw a little polygon around their house and move that tree around for the energy efficiency. We'll be talking a little bit about that and helping them with that. We'll be helping them with planting, giving them tips and tricks, kind of like we're doing here today.
Yeah.
And then we've brought some of our vendors on, and like Megan mentioned, Right Tree Service has the ropes up in a very large tree that seems to be a very popular draw for little kids to go and climb
You said
up.
your daughter did it?
Yes, she did. She made me a little nervous. They have the safety supervisor out there and training guy, and she just kept saying higher and higher. I don't know if she was nervous and just giving a thumbs up or kept saying higher, but she got about 50 feet up there, and Dad was pretty nervous at that too. So.
And yet she's up there and she did well.
Yes, and she
That's
gets
awesome.
to poke her 7-year-old brother who was too afraid to even get in
Oh,
it. So
boy.
yes, very proud moment.
So this is a fun event, but what do you hope people take away from going to an event like this?
Well, it is a very fun event, and we have a lot of activities. There's a lot to learn. If you're interested in any way, shape, or form about earth, trees, anything like that, it's a great time to come out. Our biggest message we hope to get out is the right tree in right place. That's pretty important for us. There's going to be a lot of people planting trees this year, and if we can get that message to them, hopefully they'll look up and we won't have to worry about that tree growing into the power lines down the road.
And we did lose a lot of trees after the tornado, and it can take years upon years to build back.
Yes,
what are lost.
I was on the tree board there when the tornado hit, and I think they replanted 17,000 trees since then, or this was a few years back, but a very monumental task to replace that. And that's one of the things I always tell people when they come into town. You can see where the tornado went because there's no trees there, and it's starting to fill back in now gradually. So
How long does it take for a tree that you plant to become a good energy saver? I mean, does it have to be a certain height? Does it have to be a certain maturity?
that depends on a lot of different factors. It depends on the tree, depends on the growing conditions, and depends on the location. So the Arbor Day Foundation has kind of averaged those costs and savings out over time, and they will tell you that it will save you a certain percentage per year based on where you plant it.
Okay. Are some trees fuller than others?
Yes.
When it comes to offering shade?
There's a lot of different pros and cons when you get into trees. If you go with a larger, faster growing tree, which is what a lot of people like, typically the faster growing trees are more brittle, they're more prone to breaking. If you get something that's a little bit slower growing like a bald cypress or an oak, it's going to be a lot stronger over the long term, but it's going to take a little bit longer to get to that full mature size.
So you have to be patient.
Patience is a virtue. I think there was a saying, this generation plants a tree for the next generation. So it's not something that we're always going to see in our lifetime, but hopefully our kids and our grandkids will.
All right. Well, remind us of all the details of the event. April 22nd, correct?
April 22nd, 10 to 2, a lot of great activities going on, a lot of fun stuff. Come out. It's good for the family. It's good for the kids. Grown-ups love it too.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason. Appreciate all your efforts.
Thanks.
Well, we hope you learned something about trees, and if you want to know more, check out the Arbor Day event. May the forest be with you. That's Newsmakers. I'm Lisa Oligas. Thanks for watching.